Hello everyone, this is the Sage of Calidor, and this is another video on the Numenorian series of videos on the Numenorian civilization. It is good to be back here doing this. Let's get started, and today we're going to talk about the geography of the island of Numenor. Now, let us begin with the obvious. The Numenorians were the mightiest power during the Second Age, but they did not become powerful overnight, and they have to come from somewhere. And indeed they did. As I mentioned in the previous video, they were the descendants of the various tribes of men who fought alongside the elves in the War of the Great Jewels and alongside the forces of the Valar during the War of Wrath. In gratitude for their selfless act of valor, the Valar created the island of Numenor for them to live. Because they sacrificed so much, they were like, you know what, let us pool together our power to create a beautiful land for them to live. And that is what happened. The Valar in charge of the sea and the ocean and the movements of the land created this island. They made it fertile for people to live. Manwë sent his chosen messengers, the eagles, to roost among them, to watch over them. The Valar in charge of the harvest planted special trees. And at night they could see the stars, which was a great thing to see back then. This island was created as a beautiful place. And they were created, and it was in between Middle-earth and the Undying Lands. Middle-earth on the east, and the Undying Lands in the west. You can't see the Undying Lands in the west, but that's okay. But it was in the center part of Middle-earth. It was center part of the Great Ocean. And so yeah. And the Numenorians later settled there and started their own destinies. But before we get into their we will get into their history in another video. Today we will talk about the geography, and let us start with the obvious. It is surrounded by water, so the ocean is really important for them. You can guess they would rely on ships. They would likely take food from the sea, and with their many inland spots, good for housing ships, which means good for farming vessels. So you look around. Did I say farming? Fishing vessels. My mistake. So yeah, it is surrounded by water, so it will make sense. Numenor's life will be dependent on the water. And you see there are it looks like there's 6 different areas. About 6 different areas of Numenor. Let's cover each of them individually. The first one is Metalmar. It's the center island, and it has it's mainly covered with grasslands and with 2 rivers. The 2 main rivers, the Numenorian and the Cyril, that flows mostly through this region. The mountain of Iltarma, the Pillar of Heaven, also resides here. The capital city of Armenelos is in this area, and the land of Arandor, the king's lands are in here, and that's where the capital city is. There is also the greatest port in Numenor, the port of Romena, which is also in this region. And the holy mountain of Eltarma, here is a picture of it. It is said to be so high they could see the shores of the Undying Lands, as sort of like a gift to show they are not far from the Valar's thoughts, and it is actually pretty comforting if you think about it. So that is the Centerlands. The next land is Forostar. It's the land of rocks, stones, and mountains with a lot of fir trees, and the eagles mostly dwell here. So I would guess smithing would be here for much of the Numenorians. And so yeah, another region is Orostar, and the edge of it is quite hilly to protect the vast fertile farmland, much of and which is actually a good idea because many of the winds off the coast of the sea can be quite harsh, but the hills and the mountains are used to protect the vast fertile farmland, allowing the Numenors to grow things. Hyarostar is famous for its trees used to build the ships for Numenor's fleets. It has white sand beaches, and many rivers go out to the sea on this side. So, we talked about the fir trees previously. In a previous one, I doubt those trees were used to build the vast Numenorian ships for Numenor's fleets. And so I say there was some foresight with creating this island because the Valar would be aware Numenor's future lay with the ocean. So, and they created a means to achieve that. I mean, they have an entire region devoted for building the ships for Numenor's fleets. And they have quite wonderful white sandy beaches, too. Must be a vacation spot. Also, many rivers go out to the sea on this side. Hyarnustar is noted for the vineyards and fertile farmlands, some hills, and another region. And yeah, this is the last region, and actually, yeah, this is the last region mentioned. Andustar, fertile region, and it's a fertile region with rocky coasts in the north, and they also have a fir tree forest. This area has 3 natural bays that form very natural ports, and Dune is the capital of this region, and it is here where the elves from the Undying Lands come to visit. That's another blessing of the Numenorians. The elves from the Undying Lands would often come here to visit, give them advice, trade, and knowledge, information to help live their lives better. And the people who live here would see the elves come, and the elves would come here to visit. And yeah, and this is a picture of the Bay of Elenda in the west. It is one of the few places in the world that can grow malorn trees. This is a picture of a malorn tree. They are also grown in 2 other places, the Undying Lands and Lothlorien. You can guess how extremely special this is. And this is the island of Numenor. With all I told you, the Numenorians have wood for their fleet, plenty of food, and let's not forget what else is it in the fertile farmlands or the grassland, a lot of sheep, a lot of cattle, a lot of horses. So this is a wonderful island to start a wonderful civilization for people to build wonderful lives to show the Valar respected them and honored them and looked after them. And it sounds like a wonderful place. And to close up, this is the geography of Numenor. And we will see. I don't mean to be a spoiler. I'll try not to, but we'll see in the future. And anyone who reads the books would guess things did not always turn out. But we are going to see what happens. And I will say this again, and I will say this later. Once we get down to the history, we will see Numenor was blessed with a wonderful choice promised land. And over time, they took it for granted and they lost it, which is real sad. And now that you think about it, how many times have we taken for granted the stuff we've been blessed to have? Just a thought. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. This is the Sage of Calidor again. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. It will help this channel immensely. The next video, we are going to start the history of Numenor through the reign of the kings. And I know if you look through the intro, I had several other videos like the culture, the military, the economy before the kings, but I feel like it will be best if we go through the history of the kings of Numenor before we talk about that stuff, just to add as a good framework. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for the time, and I'll see you next time.